Today I'm going to be talking about Tennessee Williams, a man who's regarded as one of the greatest playwrights of all time. After much research, I found that there is some debate about how well that Williams really does fit in with the Beat Generation. However, after reading and viewing some of his work, it is very easy to see that Williams was a true nonconformist and that much of his work was dedicated to looking at the destructive impact that society had on sensitive individuals who decided not to conform for whatever reason. Born Thomas Lanier Williams on March 26, 1911, Williams had a difficult childhood as he was bedridden for almost 3 years and later found himself as an outcast when his family moved to St. Louis. During this time, his only social outlet was his sister Rose. Williams later received the nickname Tennessee in college due to his accent and Southern heritage. Like many of his Beat counterparts, Williams suffered from alcoholism and depression and was also a homosexual. Williams was also overwhelmingly in despair because his sister Rose was later institutionalized and received a lobotomy due to her mental illness. It has been said that many of his stories' protagonists have many of the attributes of himself and his sister, while most of the antagonists portray aspects of his father and other dominant male figures who would often chastise him. Though Williams is widely recognized for many of his plays, like The Glass Menagerie and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, today I'm going to be focusing on his play A Streetcar Named Desire. A Streetcar Named Desire debuted on Broadway in December of 1947, the same year that the Un-American Activities Committee decided to go forward with hearings on Hollywood Communist. It has been said that Streetcar belonged to an oppositional strain in American culture that emerged following World War II. In Streetcar Named Desire, we see very different themes that emerge. Williams decides to look at class differences and marriage in post-war 1940s. We also see other typical Beat themes of masculinity, sex, drugs, alcoholism, and madness. At the beginning of the play, we're introduced to Blanche, who is a Southern belle that has, or aging Southern belle that has come to live with her sister Stella and Stella's husband Stanley. Blanche tells her sister that she has taken a leave from her teaching job due to nerves, but we later found out that Blanche is dismissed for having an affair with one of her students. We also see that the theme emerging that Blanche feels as though Stanley is beneath herself and Stella, and we look at the struggle between the fantasies of Blanche and the reality in which Stanley lives. And we can see this in one of the quotes that come from the movie or the play. It says, "I don't want realism, I want magic. Yes, yes, magic. I try to give that to people. I do misrepresent things. I don't tell truth. I tell what ought to be truth." So there's a thing there between realism and magic. Blanche is trying to live in this fantasy world while Stanley understands the realistic life that he is leading. This theme also emerges in Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, when some of Williams' characters are talking about mendacity or untruthfulness. So Williams really does like to to dabble with looking at how untruthful people are, or maybe it was just the fact that they like to believe in fantasies. But this struggle continues between Blanche and Stanley, and we finally see this come to a climax when Stanley decides to rape Blanche in the play, as his wife Stella is in the hospital giving birth to his child. We later see, look at the post-war marriage, when we see that Stella is a dutiful wife and she chooses to believe her husband over her own sister. Blanche can't deal with the fact that her sister has decided not to believe her and decided to stand by her husband, and this sends Blanche into madness, where she is sent to a sane asylum by Stella's husband, Stanley. Now, this matches some of the stories that are going on from William's life. Like Stanley, he's depressed, he's an alcoholic, and then like Blanche, his sister Rose is sent to institution because of mental illness. So we see a lot of aspects from William's life that are coming to life in this play. When we look at William's thoughts on the Beats, it's easy to see that he embraced the movements of freedom, and that he really wanted people to embrace the ideal of being nonconformist. While some people during this time were very uncertain about any future cultural revolution, Williams actually welcomed it with open arms. According to Jonah Raskin in his novel American Scream, Allen Ginsberg's Howl, and the Making of the Beat Generation, it's apparent that Williams anticipated the day when young people would discard conservative business suits, let their hair grow long, make wild gestures, fight, shout, and fall downstairs. Williams declares that that day would be brave and honest. Williams also believed America should have exhibited a bit more concern for the fate of its young artists during this time. In his essay titled On the Art of Being a True Nonconformist in 1948, Williams says that reactionary opinion descends like a ton of bricks on the head of any artist who speaks out against the current of prescribed ideas. And we definitely see this in the censorship and the outrage that many people had due to the topics and the graphic nature of the Beat writing at this time. It is easy to see how much that Williams really did influence the Beat generation. He's actually part of the early Beat generation. One influence he had was that while many other Beat writers were being censored, Williams' plays were being debuted and widely received on Broadway. Several of these plays were even made into major motion pictures, and Williams received several awards for The Glass Menagerie, A Streetcar Named Desire, and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. It's also been said that Williams had a huge influence on Ginsberg, and another attribute that we've seen come to life in other Beat works is poetic realism. Williams was a huge fan of using poetic realism, which is basically the use of everyday objects which seen repeatedly become imbued with symbolic meaning. Later on in the Beat, some of the Beats work, we saw that much was written about just everyday ordinary life, everyday ordinary objects, on and on and on. And this was actually something that was started or came from or influenced by Williams. So it seems as though Williams was a huge part of the Beat generation, and many of his works are widely regarded today, despite their nature talking about sex, madness, drugs, homosexuality, even cannibalism. He has had a huge impact as a playwright and also as a short story, as writing short stories and other types of text. And that's all about Tennessee Williams. Thank you.